Welcome to SMPI Strategies. Today we're addressing a critical aspect of leadership, and that's finding balance between your personal life as well as your family and what you actually do professionally. So here's the thing: 78% of leaders report feeling overwhelmed by their responsibilities impacting their family life. Is this true for you? I believe for a lot of leaders, that's the case. 43% of employees believe their leaders could improve their work life balance. And here's the thing: when you actually improve your work life balance, then you actually encourage your employees to do the same. But when you're working, and going, of course, they feel like they need to work, and go as well. And that leads to burnout and stress. Balancing leadership and family life is not just about your personal happiness. It directly impacts your effectiveness as a leader and the culture you foster within your organization. So, when was the last time you took off? When was the last time you put your family first? In this video, we're going to explore some actionable steps to achieve this balance, including prioritization. We're going to talk about setting boundaries, and we're going to also talk about leading by example. One of the things I want to do for you is I want to debunk some of the myths that you actually have and answer your essential questions. So here's the thing: I want you to think about this as a leader. How do you actually define or determine, rather, what you actually take on? Do you take on more than really what needs to be in your particular wheelhouse? See, here's the thing that I found. I found that a lot of leaders feel like I have to take this on, and I need to take this on, and I need to take this on. And so you're doing a lot of things. But I want to ask you, are you doing those things well? What are the critical things that you actually need to do to ensure that you are effective and your team is effective? You're developing successors and you're also developing your talent. Prioritization is going to be key. And one of the things that we'll talk about later, is priority of effort. I want you to think about, when I'm actually working on this, or I'm actually launching this as a strategy for our team, is this something that absolutely needs to be done? What's the impact if it's not done? What's the impact if we do it? And should we do it now? And I want you to think about, what's the impact to the stakeholders, meaning, of course, your employees, your customers. I want you to think about what is the true impact of that, even for your shareholders, if you're a public organization, right? So you actually, of course, that they are your customer. And so what's the prioritization? What is critical that our organization needs to do absolutely and do well today to get us ahead and to give us that competitive advantage that we actually need? And this is key because you can't do it all. You can have everything, but of course, we know you cannot have it all at the same time. So I want you to think about prioritization. I want you to think about delegation. I've seen so many leaders struggle with this. They don't delegate. How well do you delegate? And then also, what is it that you actually delegate? Are you delegating things that, again, are developing your team? Are you delegating things that absolutely need to get done or need to get done right now? But I want you to really kind of think through, are you delegating tasks at work as well as at home? And at home, how do you delegate? Perhaps you involve your children. Perhaps you involve your spouse, if you have one, or a significant other. Maybe you have an assistant who's helping you both at work as well as at home. But I want you to think about, what are those things that you can actually delegate? So could you actually get a cleaning person? I'm pretty sure you may have one, but could you get a chef? Could you get a meal planning kit or a meal planning company to help you with your meals? Could you get someone to do the yard work for you, the landscaping for you? What are the tasks that you can actually delegate? Do you have a personal assistant? And this is especially true also for leaders who find themselves engaged in a number of outside activities outside of your home. So perhaps you're volunteering. Maybe you're doing something in the community that you love and that you actually enjoy, and you're giving back. But does that require you then to say, you know what, I'm taking something else on, and I need to take something else off? And I know that if you're a strong, effective, and impactful leader, that your challenge would be is not taking on too much, and that's one of the things, I'll be honest, that I've struggled with in my own life, of saying yes. You love a lot of things, and maybe you're multi talented, multi-skilled, and so you are taking more and more on, and then the people who love you are getting the least of you. So, what tasks can you actually delegate at work as well as at home to avoid burnout? Now, here's the thing that I want you to think about when you're delegating tasks, especially at work. You have your assistant and you have your team, possibly. And so, I want you to think about, with your assistant as well as with your team, is there someone on another team that another leader says, this is a high potential employee, and perhaps they want to do what you're actually doing one day. So can you delegate something to them? Are you working cross-functionally to develop talent within your organization, but it's also helping you as you prioritize and delegate tasks? I want you to think about setting boundaries. When you're thinking about the boundaries, so often we do not have clear boundaries, right? Because the work has to get done and it's falling on you. You're responsible, or perhaps you're accountable, whatever the case is, we have these boundaries. And so it's hard. And I've shared this even speaking with a leader just yesterday. It's hard for leaders sometimes to set those boundaries. And you think that I was speaking with a leader who was saying, I get a lot done, and she gets a lot done. But as we continue to have that conversation, the reason why this particular executive was able to accomplish a lot is because it bleeds over a lot into her personal time. She's working on the weekends. She's working after hours. She has people on other teams as well as her team who are working on things. And so what we see happening is that she does not have those clear boundaries for work as well as family time. Now, one of the things that we were able to talk about was, okay, let's look at your health results, the results from your last physical. What did the results from your last physical show? And I stopped her and began to talk about, one of the things that we talked about was the need for you to go in for a biopsy. And so what happens when we are under stress? Our bodies physiologically change, right? So there's a physical change with us. And so how does it actually impact your health and your family? Right? So our families actually care about us. If we were sick, hopefully they will be there to take care of us. So I want you to think about setting those clear boundaries for your work life as well as your family life, And so it's not that I'm giving you the green light, right? Not to be effective or get things done. But what I am asking you to do, again, is to set those boundaries. And perhaps the boundary for you would be, I'm going to work, I don't mind working weekends, and my family doesn't mind me working weekends. But I'm not going to work every weekend. Or maybe if I have to work on weekends, it's only going to be for this time, from this time to this time. If I have to work in the evenings, I know that is necessary for the type of work that I actually do, especially if you're leading a global organization, right? So what does that actually look like so that your family does not feel like they are not important to you? The thing that bothers me is when we see our families feeling like they are not important, that they don't actually matter, and that your work is more important than they are. Now, granted, if you are a leader, more than likely, or there's a great possibility, I would say, is that you are passionate about this. This is your mission, your purpose, your calling, your destiny. So you're doing the thing that you actually love to do, the thing that you were created to do. But with that, when we have a family, that also comes a different responsibility. We're responsible for our families as well, and making sure that they feel loved and they feel like we are there to support them. So I want to encourage you that maybe you have some blackout times that you're spending with your significant other, you're spending with perhaps your parents, maybe you're spending with your children, maybe you don't have any of that, but just some things that you're doing for yourself. Perhaps you like cycling, perhaps you like jogging or bowling or hunting or fishing, whatever your hobby is that you like. I want you to, again, to set boundaries so you protect that time and you're doing more of the thing that's going to give you the fuel and the energy to be more effective and impactful at what you actually do. Next, what I want you to focus on: quality interactions with your family. See, one of the things I've seen leaders do is say, you know what? I was present. I'm here. And but you got your cell phone. You got your cell phone and you're texting and you're interrupting people and you're picking it up and you're talking and you say, I'm here, I'm present. Have you read the book, The Five Love Languages? I love that book. And I love that book for this reason, because we all receive love differently. And they actually have a book as well, a counter book rather to that. And it's about appreciation and love in the workplace, right? So how do you show your employees they're valued and appreciated in the workplace? I want you to think about those quality interactions with your family. Are you having quality interactions? If you're a person like me, I absolutely love quality time. And I want, when we're having quality time, for you to be focused. I want you to be present. I want you to be involved in whatever it is that we're actually doing. And so that means your phone may need to go to the side. It cannot necessarily, depending upon your role, go completely away. And that's a drawback, but I want you to think about that, is how do you have quality interactions with your family? Do you set the expectation? Hey, I'm expecting an important call. I have to take this call. When you're present with your children or with your family, are you 100% there? Or are you continuously distracted? I want you to remove distractions. And so I want you to think about, if I'm here with my child, I'm here with the person that I actually love, how do I show them that I'm present? What is it that they're actually needing from me? And how can I give that to them? And then what are they giving me back in return? So how do you have quality? What does your family love to do? I absolutely love Utah. It's one of my favorite places in the entire world. I absolutely love Salt Lake City, Provo, Utah, Park City, Utah. I love Utah. And so for me, a quality interaction is not necessarily always spending time with my family in Utah. I'm originally, as many of you guys may know, from Memphis, Tennessee. But when I go home, I try to be 100% present with my family, not doing a whole lot of other things and finding myself in a lot of places, especially when I'm working so much. And, they don't necessarily get to have those interactions with me, and I don't get to have those interactions with them as well. But it's important to me that we actually build a strong, healthy relationship, that we create memories that we can look back on, and they can see that I'm not always working, that I am not always distracted, that I'm not necessarily asking them to always be last. How can you have fun and enjoy the people that you love? That's your homework, actually. And then I want you to think again about leading by example. How are you showing up for your employees? What messages are you sending to your organization? What we're seeing right now is you have a lot of companies who are focused on wellness and well-being. And as more people are working from home, we do understand that there's a balance, right? There's a bleed there that you feel like you can always continue to work because you're not necessarily in traffic. And so because you're not losing that time in commuting, what we see is that people are working later. They're working earlier. They're not necessarily taking their breaks. And so how do you show your team that balance is absolutely essential so that you can think clearly? Have you ever found that you're foggy? Have you ever found that, I am not really hitting it the way that I really could or that I should? Well, one reason could be because you're not finding that balance. You're not giving your brain the opportunity to recharge. You're not giving your brain the opportunity to really kind of think through what you've actually done, accomplished, and taken in, and enjoyed that, celebrated what you actually have accomplished, because I'm pretty sure you've accomplished a lot. Successful leaders must work around the clock. That's often what we think, and that's a myth. That's not true. Successful leaders don't have to work around the clock. If the president can find time, and we understand why the president takes time away. Why do they go to Camp David? Because they need to recharge. They need to be able to step back from all of the pressure and the responsibility and get to a place, they're around nature where they can actually, disconnect completely and come back and be ready to go. Another misconception we see is balancing work and family actually compromises your leadership effectiveness. Now, we hear there's no such thing as work-life balance. You've got to find the balance. You've got to determine how you're actually going to incorporate that into your life, and what does that look like for you, and what does that look like for your family. So here's the thing I would encourage you to do, and when I'm coaching leaders, I absolutely require this of them. No ifs, ands, or buts. You need to sit down with your family, the people who you actually love, and you got to engage them and let them know what we're working on, what we're working towards, and why it's important that I'm working like this, or I'm doing this at this stage of my career. Involve your family, figure out a way to incorporate them into the work that you do some kind of way. And so maybe perhaps if you got kids, it's talking to your children about the work that you do. Maybe it's bring your kid to work day and allowing them to see what it is that you actually do. Maybe it's introducing your family to your team, but how can you actually involve them in the process, or your plan of success, of achieving work-life balance? Perhaps you guys look at a calendar and you sit down and you say, you know what, these are the days that we absolutely know that for our family, we want to block this time off, and you make a conscious and concerted effort to keep that, to uphold that. And so I want you to think about how can you effectively delegate tasks to free up your time. I want you to think about what boundaries do you need to set? What boundaries can you set, and what boundaries are you comfortable setting to maintain a healthy balance? And then I want you to think about, again, leading from the top down, being that example leader. And so how do you promote work-life balance within your organization? Perhaps you're not sending any emails after hours. You're doing your very best not to send emails after hours. You're not asking employees to do something or work all the time. Now, again, there will be times we know where it's absolutely essential. We got to work late. It's absolutely essential if we got a lunch that we got to work on weekends. It's absolutely essential that if we're a global organization, that we are not always meeting at the time of the country in which the majority of your employees live. You've got to figure out how do we incorporate other people in their times as well, and so that they are not always working late. They're not always up at the wee hours of the morning. And so I want you to think about how can we work towards being leaders who not only excel professionally, but also who create an environment within our teams and within our families to actually thrive. I want you to share your thoughts on balancing leadership and family in the comments. I want to hear from you. And so I want to know, what have you found to be effective? What have you found that actually works for your team or works for your family, that your family appreciates? And then what difference has this actually made in your own life and even your health? And then also the health of your teams. One of the things that we know is that being an effective, impactful leader, it requires you to be human-centric. And human-centric means that you are thinking about yourself as a person as well as your employees. How do people feel about what they're doing? You're empowering people, again, as a human-centric leader. And we're thinking also about the culture that we're setting within our organization. I would love to hear more from you. I would love to explore this topic with you further. If you would like assistance or guidance in really setting a strategy for incorporating work-life balance and leaving a legacy of success on all fronts within your life, then all you got to do is send me an email, Sherilyn@smpistrategies.com, and I will love to work on that with you. I'll see you guys back here next week. Again, don't forget to submit your questions. We're going to be doing Q&As, and so I would love to be able to answer your top leadership or management questions. See you guys back here next week.